Tonight, an end-of-term celebration ends in tragedy. An 8-year-old girl was killed when a Land Rover ploughed into a primary school. At least 16 people were injured.
I saw bodies being wheeled into ambulances. I didn't know necessarily whether they were alive or going into the ambulance for treatment, but some of the damage that I saw did seem quite life-threatening and maybe unsurvivable.
We'll be live in Wimbledon and at the hospital in Tooting, where patients are being cared for. Also on the programme, the retired officers who first investigated the murder of Stephen Lawrence will not face criminal charges, prosecutors have decided. The wedding cake that's left a sour taste for the producers of a new West End show, and from child prodigy to celebrated artist honouring a musical great. Good evening. The school day had just begun at the Study Prep School in Wimbledon, with children having an end-of-year celebration when a Land Rover smashed through fencing and crashed into the building. An 8-year-old girl was killed and 10 people were taken to hospital. Some of those, it's believed, were critically injured. A witness described seeing small bodies being put into ambulances. A woman in her 40s has been arrested on suspicion of causing death by dangerous driving. In a moment, we'll be live at the school in Wimbledon and at St George's Hospital. But first, Sam Holder has this report.
No parent expects this. For at least one family in Wimbledon tonight, their child, their precious daughter, won't be coming home. At just before 10, the Land Rover crashed into the Study Prep School. Students here are aged 4 to 11. Locals say there'd been an end-of-term party at the time. One delivery driver saw the immediate aftermath.
I was hearing kind of pedestrians and other parents of children just basically being in a very distraught state, kind of directed traffic. Oh, there's bodies around there, get out the way, let police through, that kind of stuff. Upon walking back and looking down this corner here to see, to look towards the direction of the incident, I saw bodies being wheeled into ambulances. I didn't know necessarily whether they were alive or going into the ambulance for treatment, but some of the damage that I saw did seem quite life-threatening and maybe unsurvivable.
The emergency response was swift and massive. Dozens of ambulances, fire crews, helicopters and police vans. A major response centre was set up. Then came the news that parents and teachers feared. The police officer almost overcome with emotion.
Very sadly, one of the children, an 8-year-old girl, died at the scene. Our thoughts are with her family at this incredibly difficult time. The driver of a car, a woman aged in her 40s, stopped at the scene and has since been arrested for causing death by dangerous driving and remains in police custody. This is a very difficult time for everyone here at the school and across the wider community. We would ask people not to speculate while we work to understand the full circumstances of what has happened during this tragic incident.
16 people were treated at the scene, 10 taken to hospital. It's not clear how serious their injuries are. But the events today so traumatic, the fire service is offering counselling for its crews. People living nearby described hearing a loud bang, followed by screaming, and then shouts of "help the children first." The neighbouring golf club became the centre of the emergency response. Richard and other members helped support school staff.
She said that she was a gym teacher and she was in the playground with the children, just happened to turn around and was walking in when the car came through, so she escaped. But she saw the carnage that it created and she was obviously very upset.
The police have offered no explanation for what happened, for how this 4x4 ended up driving through a fence and into a school. They've ruled out terrorism, but a woman in her 40s is under arrest for causing death by dangerous driving. Throughout the day, we have seen parents taking their children home through the road behind me. Some of those children were unable to walk without help from their parents, but the reality is those parents are in a way the lucky ones, because at least one family tonight does not have that opportunity? Well, I'm joined here by the local MP, Stephen Hammond. And Stephen, this is a school you know incredibly well because your daughter went here.
Many years ago, my daughter went here. It's a very well-liked, very well-respected local school, very much based in Wimbledon, so most of the children who go here will be from Wimbledon. And there's this extraordinary tragedy happened on the last day of term, and I want to express on behalf of myself and the whole community condolences to the girl's family.
Lots of people at home will be wondering how it's even possible for a 4x4 to enter school grounds and crash right into the side of the building. I mean, we're not next to a busy main road here. Can you explain the layout a little bit and how you understood this happened?
Well, this is locally known as the Quadrant, and as you can see and was reflected in your programme, this is a very narrow road, lots of cars parked, so very difficult to build up speed. I understand that the vehicle crashed through the fence into what was the children having a celebration of their time here because the school is split between two sites, and that potentially, I think there has been some speculation that the lady may have suffered some medical incident.
There will be lots of children here today who survived but saw things that will have traumatised them, traumatised teachers as well. What kind of support is going to be offered?
Well, I think throughout the day the support has been extraordinary. The police reacted extraordinarily quickly, and I want to thank all the emergency services for the great work and great job they did. I've spoken to the local police and the local council and also the chairman of governors, and I know that all the support and counselling that's required, because undoubtedly a number of children will have seen one of their friends potentially, friends being injured, and there will be trauma. So the counselling is going in place, and the police liaison, family liaison unit, I know are already working with the families of the people who are hospitalised, as well as for, unfortunately, the parents of the child who's been killed today.
Stephen, thank you very much on what must be an incredibly distressing day for you too. Well, the police have asked people not to speculate on what the cause of the crash might have been as they investigate and continue with their investigations. They say they have spoken to witnesses and that they are reviewing CCTV.
Sam, for the moment, thank you. Well, Antoine Allen is at St George's Hospital in Tooting, where the victims have been taken for treatment. Antoine, what do we know about the injured?
Well, anyone affected to this incident would be worried about their friends, their family and, of course, their loved one. When it comes to the paramedics, they issued a statement saying that 10 people were taken to this hospital. Right now, we don't know what state they are in, but as you heard in Sam's report, it's the kind of incident where they could be very badly injured. Now, the paramedics did say, as Sam was already reporting, that an 8-year-old girl lost her life. But anyone connected to this incident will be feeling the trauma of what happened today, and that will live long into their minds. But in terms of those people that are behind me in this hospital, of course, they'll be hoping that they'd make a full recovery. And the paramedics did actually thank all of the members of the public that helped and assisted them when it came to helping people who were a part of this incident.
Antoine at St George's Hospital in Tooting, thank you. And there is more on what happened in Wimbledon on the ITV Evening News, which follows at 6:30. Here's a look ahead now with Charlene.
Tragedy strikes in a South London school. An 8-year-old girl is killed and a woman in her 40s arrested after a car collides with one of its buildings. A 23-year-old man is found guilty of murdering Ellie Edwards last Christmas Eve. 1,000 arrests as police raid cannabis farms in the biggest operation of its kind. And a new thread for your timeline. Mark Zuckerberg's Meta launches its answer to Twitter. Join us for those stories and more from 6:30.
Back in London, get ready for more disruption on the underground. In the last hour, it has been announced that the RMT union will launch fresh tube strikes across the network in a row over pensions, job cuts and working conditions. The strikes will take place on Sunday, the 23rd of July, and run until the following Friday, the 28th of July. A man who gave CPR to an 18-year-old who was shot while riding his moped has spoken about how he tried to save the young man in his final moments. Andre Salmon crashed into a parked car and collapsed in Haringey on Monday evening and died at the scene. A murder investigation has been started. Helen Keenan has more.
It's been less than 2 months since the last shooting in Tottenham. Now another young life has been lost, 18-year-old Andre Salmon. Flowers and candles line the road where he died. It was those that worked nearby who tried to save him.
I was literally just seeing if he had a pulse, and the other guy got a jacket and he pressed on his chest, trying to stem the flow of blood. And my other colleague was on the other side, keeping his hand on there. And I was talking to him, trying to get some communication out of him. It just wasn't there. He was like in shock, and his eyes were rolling back.
And what were you saying to him?
I was just asking him, "What's your name? What's your name?" Just trying to get something out of him. And his breathing just got shallower and shallower. I mean, I could feel his pulse, but it was very, very shallow.
The victim had been travelling on a moped here on Stamford Road on Monday afternoon when he was shot by a suspect on an e-scooter. He turned left onto Constable Crescent, where he collided with a parked car.
Fassel knows Andre's dad. He put pressure on the bullet wound and was there when he passed away.
It was me and my brother initially, my brother Hamza. He was in the police for 10 years, so he was quite experienced when it came to first aid and stuff. So I called him, he came downstairs, and we did what we could do. We got a first aid box out, but obviously it wasn't enough to save him because the bleeding was a lot. When you see someone dead and see someone dying in front of you, it's two different things. And the fact that we couldn't help him do much kind of made us feel bad as well.
You know his dad, you've spoken to him today. How is he doing?
His father's actually a customer for us, and he came today and was a brave man. That's all I can say.
Police say Andre died in devastating circumstances and have launched a murder investigation into his death. Neighbours we spoke to today were too scared to come on camera, worried about the repercussions as they spoke about the gangs that operate in the area. Police haven't given any detail yet about the circumstances surrounding Andre's death, as they call for witnesses to come forward. No arrests have been made yet. Helen Keenan, ITV News.
A man has died after a fire at a house in Kentish Town. 70 firefighters were sent to the scene and found most of the bottom floors of the home alight and smoke rising from the roof. 5 people escaped, but 1 man was found dead on the ground floor. A London overground driver, who crashed a train at Enfield Town in 2021 was found to have had cocaine in his system at the time. A report today said Erkan Mehmet crashed a train because he was tired. He will be sentenced tomorrow. A teenager who smashed a £3 million Bugatti with a hammer has been jailed for 16 months. The boy, who was 15 at the time, was filmed on a dash cam attacking the car in Mayfair. He was sentenced at Highbury Corner Magistrates Court. Next tonight, none of the retired Metropolitan Police officers accused of misconduct in the Stephen Lawrence inquiry will face criminal charges. The Crown Prosecution Service has decided there was not enough evidence to charge the 4 retired officers with misconduct. Well, Daniel Henry is here with me now. Daniel, this is all about how the officers handled those crucial first weeks of the investigation back in 1993, isn't it?
That's right. And since then, the Lawrence family have been through hell, haven't they? Trying to campaign, trying to find out what happened in that investigation and why it was botched, why it was failed so badly. And when you think about what's happened for them this year, having to mark 30 years since Stephen's murder, and then last month discovering that this man, Matthew White, this 6th suspect, found out by a journalist who'd been digging around. And now we've got 4 detectives who are part of that original investigation who will now avoid all criminal charges. So Mark Rowley has always said that mistakes were made in that investigation. This week, he said that those mistakes may now be irreparable. The Crown Prosecution Service, they reviewed all the available evidence, they say, and that no charges will be brought against them. Doreen Lawrence issued a statement this evening in response to that. She said, "I am bitterly disappointed with the Crown Prosecution Service decision not to charge any police officers. I will be seeking a review of it. In my opinion, the police have got away scot-free. This is a disgrace." So where does that leave them tonight? Well, the Lawrence family have been fighting so long, and it leaves them knowing that some of her son's killers are still out there, and the people responsible for finding them, who failed so badly in that initial investigation, will now avoid any criminal charges.
Daniel, thank you. In other news, the Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer condemned activists protesting at large events today, calling them arrogant. By coincidence, a speech he was giving this morning was disrupted by climate activists. Meanwhile, the policing minister today suggested sporting organisations need to do more to prevent protests at big events, a day after Just Stop Oil protesters disrupted Wimbledon.
More wardens, more stewards, the police presence, the use of injunctions, because we want the public to be able to enjoy the Great British Summer, enjoy the sporting events that make this country such a great place to be.
And an activist from a different group, Animal Rising, has avoided jail after running onto the track at the Epsom races last month. 32-year-old Ben Newman was filmed running onto the racecourse and endangering police, who dragged him away just moments before the horses galloped past. Today, the judge gave Newman an 18-week suspended sentence and fined him more than £1,300. Next, the show is called Tony and Tina's Wedding, so a wedding cake on the poster seemed like a no-brainer, but producers had not counted on Transport for London's advertising rules, which ban the promotion of unhealthy foods. The ad was scrapped, leaving the comedy's backers with little to laugh about as they struggle to sell tickets. They say they might even have to delay opening night. Anna Geary has the story.
Love grows like flowers in the spring.
Oh my God, did you not go through this?
I
with
went
Joey
through
already?
it. Ma, I can't concentrate with you.
It's a show about an Italian-American marriage ceremony where everything goes wrong.
You gotta show it. You gotta show your love.
I'm doing it.
All right, well, do it then. Get on with it.
Tony and Tina's Wedding was due to debut in the West End this weekend, but had to postpone. It's after a promotional poster it made for London's transport network was banned by TfL, who said the cake flouted guidance designed to reduce children's exposure to sugary food.
Well, we designed the poster several months ago for the start of the show, and we're very pleased with it. And then we decided we'd go on the tube and do an advertising campaign on the tubes, and then we were politely told it couldn't go on the tubes because it had a wedding cake on it. So we a little bit gobsmacked by that. It's not promoting biscuits or chocolate or anything like that. All seems a bit silly, really, but...
Why is it so hard to remember your name?
Oh, I forgot.
A bit silly was certainly the sentiment among cast members too.
A classic play like Death of a Salesman, you can't start taking out the word death because it promotes death. Do you know what I mean? Like, and this is a cake. Really surprising. I didn't expect a cake to be the centre of so much controversy.
Hey, how you doing, Father? What do you hear? What do you say?
Controversy that has set the theatre company back an extra £5,000 on a new ad campaign. Not only that, but they believe sales have suffered as a result of the delays.
We've sold overall, initially, for the first few previews, about 70 tickets, but we should have been on several hundred.
In a short statement, Transport for London says it welcomes all advertising on the network which complies with its published guidance. It went on to say that it's happy to help brands to follow its advertising policy.
Slow them down.
Accepting defeat, show producers have one last trick up their sleeve.
I think what we might do on our opening night is we might let Tony and Tina go on the tube with the cake and give wedding cake on the tube to everybody.
Love Grows by Tina Vitale.
The immersive performance invites audiences from the 15th of July. Anna Geary, ITV News.
One of the most celebrated musicians of the 20th century is being honoured with a blue plaque. Violinist Yehudi Menuhin was once conducted an entire orchestra, stood on his head, conducting with his feet. Now, 24 years on from his death, the Belgravia-based virtuoso will have a lasting legacy at the home where he rehearsed. Barbara Holmes reports.
From being touted as an American child prodigy to being knighted and taking a seat in the House of Lords, Yehudi Menuhin's life and career was filled with many accomplishments and accolades. Now, more than 2 decades after his death, he is being honoured once again. The violinist moved to London in the early 60s and spent the last 16 years of his life in this house in Belgravia. Today's speeches highlighted his many musical accomplishments, but also his humanitarian work and deep spirituality.
Well, Yehudi was very ahead of his time. He formed an organisation called Live Music Now, which sends young students into hospitals and things. You know, he just thought ahead of his time. He worked with people like Stefan Grappelli, Ravi Shankar, at a time when classical musicians weren't really doing that.
He wasn't just musically innovative, he was one of the first to help popularise yoga in the UK, even if his children didn't quite appreciate the practice at the time.
When I say I took lessons with Iyengar as an 8-year-old, people are sort of, oh God, unbelievable, what an incredible privilege. And all I knew was how awful it was. It was so tough. And I thought, God, when this is going to end, this hour of torture, you know.
But his greatest legacy stems from his passion for educating future generations of musicians. One of those performing here today is playing his 280-year-old viola.
It's such an honour to be able to play Menuhin's instrument. He's an inspiration. I don't know whether it was his favourite viola, but it's an incredible instrument. It's such an honour to have the thing that Menuhin created such amazing recordings on.
Inside, his former home is filled once again with the sound of musicians. Not only did Menuhin live here, but he taught some pupils here too.
Well, it was absolutely amazing. Coming to the house of my idol was just something incredible, and it was like seventh heaven walking here. And so when I passed through London, it's sort of a pilgrimage. I so enjoyed being here. Sort of, for me, this is the center of the universe, and so I bring my children here, and just wonderful memories.
It's not just a plaque unveiled here today that shows Menuhin's impact. It's the people and music that means his memory lives on. Barbara Holmes, ITV News, London.
Let's return to our top story now. And Sam Holder is in Wimbledon, where that car crashed into a school this morning, killing an 8-year-old girl and injuring several others. Sam, any updates while we've been on air?
Well, Duncan, understandably, there have been lots of responses from senior officials. The Prime Minister says his thoughts are with the family of the young girl. Sadiq Khan says his heart goes out to everyone affected. Look, less than a mile from here, or around a mile from here, is where the tennis is played. Many of the world's news crews were diverted from covering matches there to come and cover events here. The organisers there say their thoughts are with the school and the wider community. In the last hour, we've had a statement from the study prep school. They say they are profoundly shocked by the tragic accident, devastated it has claimed the lives of one of their young pupils, and they say it's still far too soon to fully understand what happened, but they're well aware of the significant impact this dreadful event will have on their pupils and their families.
Sam, in Wimbledon, thank you very much. A terrifying, terrifying day there for pupils, parents and teachers, and of course, one family grieving tonight in Wimbledon. Let's have a look now at the weather forecast, and as we head towards the weekend, the temperatures are rising and it's going to be hot and humid on Saturday with the risk of storms. Sally tells me. Here she is now with the forecast.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles. Car, charger and energy.
Hello again. I hope you had a lovely day. Hopefully we won't be needing these tomorrow unless we've got it spectacularly wrong. It's set to be a nice warm day, very warm locally and sunny as well. But as we move into Saturday, the risk of some thunderstorms and some heavy downpours, so worth keeping an eye on the forecast if you've got plans. Let's take a look at the rest of this evening. That cloud breaking up. I hope you'll get some evening sunshine. There's still a little bit around and clear skies overnight developing and the temperatures dropping down, but possibly not quite as far as last night, still down to the low double figures. And then as we start tomorrow, well, it's a rather lovely start and the day generally should continue like that with plenty of blue sky and plenty of sunshine. We're bringing up this southerly air, so the temperatures climbing up to the mid to high 20s, feeling quite different tomorrow. And as we head into the evening as well, it's going to stay warm and muggy, so a slightly more uncomfortable one for sleeping tomorrow night. As we move then into Saturday, dry initially, but we're watching this front moving up, and that's what could bring us these thunderstorms storms, hail and heavy downpours. There could be a fair bit of rain. So as I said, do keep an eye on the forecast because there is a bit of uncertainty. Quite muggy on Saturday as well, but the temperatures will come down a bit as we move into Sunday. But the uncertainty and unsettled weather stays with us. Here's the pollen.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles.
Hello, summer. Piri sponsors ITV Pollen Count.
Still high levels of pollen with the fine weather over the next couple of days. As we head into Saturday, if we do get some heavy downpours, that will relieve things slightly on the pollen front, and it's mostly from grass and trees such as lime and chestnut. I'll see you later. Cheerio.
And that is it from us. The ITV Evening News is next with Charlene. But for now, from everyone here on the London team, thank you for watching and hope you have a good evening. Bye-bye.